What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be reviewing Port Adelaide's round 3 victory over Fremantle at Metricon Stadium in what was a very interesting game of football up there on the Gold Coast. Our first game in the hub against our fellow hubbers, if you will, with the Dockers, and we took them on and we bet them by 29 points in a game of football that was very based around pressure, with a little bit of a sprinkle of some showers. Now, when I say sprinkle, I mean absolutely piss down. But nonetheless, let's review this game and see how it went down for the Power.
I think last night from a similar position, Hutto.
I was going to mention it, but then Jared would have said I would be a better Geelong supporter.
I'll say it for you. And then we've seen one of the best players in the comp.
And we've seen Ollie Wine step up to finish the job just about for Port.
Went into this one with a little bit more expectation around Port Adelaide and how it went about it. A little bit more nervous I was going into the game, knowing that Fremantle had been a pretty competitive side against their two previous games with, I think it was Brisbane and Essendon beforehand. So it was a game of football that I thought Port Adelaide would win, but it was just a matter of how much we could do it by. I wasn't too confident in a blowout, but I was sort of proved wrong because we came out of the gates against the Dockers pretty slow. It was a very highly contested, highly pressurised contest. The ball was slipping around everywhere, and I think majority of the time we actually did have a little bit of control, but I think Fremantle just capitalised on some mistakes we made in our defensive 50. We were just moving the ball on too quickly, and we weren't sort of adjusted to the conditions that the Gold Coast did provide. I think as well, what played a little bit into Fremantle's hands was the fact that the game itself was obviously later at night, and Port Adelaide had just basically arrived on the Gold Coast, so Fremantle a little bit more acclimatised. So Port just took a little bit of time to get used to the conditions, and having the pre-game beforehand with Gold Coast taking on Adelaide sort of roughed up the ground a little bit, but it was still in good condition. And I feel, halfway through that first quarter, we started to get a little bit of mojo, and it was basically goal for goal and providing a pretty good contest between the two teams. Once the second quarter did hit, though, we looked like we were back in our mindset, we knew exactly what we were going to do. We're playing our zones well. Our drive for the football was a lot better. And we also just attacked a little bit harder. And when that rain came, we just took advantage of that. And it seems to be that when Port Adelaide does have one good quarter of football, it tends to win us the game. And the second quarter was that. It absolutely came down halfway through that second quarter. And we capitalised, having 22 inside 50s, 5 goals for, to Fremantle, none inside 50 until the last minute where they had a couple and only... I think they kicked a point maybe, but it was just amazing to see the amount of pressure we put Fremantle under. We actually capitalised, kicking goals, putting scoreboard pressure on, and that was on the back of our midfield with Ollie Wines bustling through packs, and Travis Boak's run and his work rate was just phenomenal, providing good contest. And I think majority of our players just were smart enough to play wet weather footy and pump it in long and keep the pressure up, and we managed to basically push the ball forward and kick goals from that. Charlie Dixon's marks inside 50, even though it was wet, he was clunking them. He had glue on his hands. He was just taking those. It was just that kind of day for Charlie. And it was very impressive to watch. Todd Marshall's groundwork was sensational, and he provides such an outlet for Charlie to let him loose, and he's able to take on the number one defender and actually beat him thanks to Todd Marshall. And it's complemented well with Justin Westhoff, who's that more of a floating, tall forward where you can go up the ground and protect it in the defensive 50, but also pressure up in the midfield, and is able to take the contest up around the footy and follow that around as well. So Hoff is such a versatile player, we know that, but he's capable of kicking goals, and I'm loving the way he's going about his footy this year. And those three are definitely a dynamic trio down forward. They're a triple threat. And I think, as the season goes on a little bit more, they'll feel more comfortable with each other. And with the likes of Butters, Rosie, Robbie Gray, Motlop at their feet, and also the likes of Ebert putting pressure around them as well, our forward half is very dominant when it can get the chance. I did mention that obviously it did rain during the second quarter, and I think that sort of cost Fremantle the game a little bit. They were definitely looking like a better side in the dry. And you can tell from that last quarter, the late of the third quarter and early into the last, they were just a little bit better pushing forward, hitting up targets, keeping it inside their 50, and they definitely suited that weather condition a little bit more. But I was more surprised that Port Adelaide played better in the wet than they did in the dry, and I think it comes down to that, just push forward, pump it forward, put that pressure on around the ball carrier and just keep attacking the footy. If that's the drive we've got at the moment, then I can see why we've won 3 on the trot very convincingly. And to be top of the table and capable of beating those sides that normally... that type of game on the weekend against the Dockers is definitely the type of game, in Ken Hinkley's era anyway, where we'd lose. You'd come in with great form, great momentum, and we drop one just out of the blue. But now that we have basically given Fremantle a beating, we now move into West Coast and Brisbane, where we have a little bit more confidence, and we're going to take on against teams who have that experience and have been where we should be in the top 8 and deep into finals. So it's going to be a bigger and better contest when we play those two teams. But it's a good promise to see what we've been doing in the off-season be delivered on the ground in a season where things are just up in the air at the moment. A couple of individual efforts I do want to highlight are the fact that Travis Boak is a star. He's right there. I'll ask him now, Boak, how was your game, mate? Pretty good? Yeah, unreal. He's had 3 brilliant games in a row. And you could almost say he's at 9 votes at the moment in the Brownlow. He's just been awesome in the middle. And as I said just before, his work rate's phenomenal. And that's how he gets his possessions and dominates games, is the fact that his work rate and his ability to get to each contest pretty freely, it makes him a hard man to stop. And I did say Ollie Wines coming back into the side. He had a point to prove, Ollie, and he did it fantastically. He definitely came out with a drive in him. His eyes were definitely on the focus, and to prove a point like he did, 25 possessions, 6 clearances, and kicked a late goal to seal it, definitely proved he wanted to be out there and he was back. And I think, he's back where he belongs. And if he can play that consistent amount of footy now, we're going to have a very, very dynamic midfield. Scott Lysette, Justin Westhoff, Charlie Dixon, Todd Marshall, Tom Jonas, the tools that are at each part of the ground. Lysette dominated in the ruck, was just giving first hand to our midfielders. Dixon was clunking them, as I said. Westhoff and Marshall complementing that. Tom Jonas down back did a fantastic job. He just was in great positions, and he was just able to manipulate the contest when it was down in their forward half. Sometimes they got off the leash, and that was fine. But I think him being able to, direct and influence the contest down there, created the small defenders to play well. Hartlett was hard at the contest, got the ball out multiple times. DBJ was just that running ball carrier in the first half and had a pretty good first half, I might add. So it's just those little things that just seem to be clicking at the moment. We're doing them right, and that's probably the big plus for me. And you look at down forward half, as I said before, Ebert complementing what the tools are doing. His pressure's immense, and I'm loving that he's down forward kicking goals, but he's also putting that pressure on. We know he's a great tackler, and he's able to put that pressure on. And I'm saying pressure a lot, but that's what our game's based on now. And the way we're doing it is we're doing it in a damn good way, where it's going to stand up against the sides like Fremantle, the sides like the Crows, and the sides like West Coast and Brisbane. We just have to be there mentally. And if we are, we're going to dominate some teams that you never thought we would. And I have confidence in that, but I'd love to see it firsthand against a classier team. And when we do see that, and if we pull it off, then I'll start to think, hang on a second, we're in this up into our heads. So it was a good win nonetheless, and I'm just happy that we're 3-0, top of the table, Crows are bottom, and we're doing our social distancing very nicely. Well, there you have it, Port fans. That is my review of round 3 against Fremantle, taking them down by 29 points in a Sunday night time slot. I wasn't too happy about that, to be honest. I didn't sleep too much overnight, I can tell you that. I was too busy celebrating a win, and don't give me that time slot too often, because I was up and about, and I shouldn't have been, because it was tough to get up this morning. But nonetheless, no matter what time Port play, I'll be there, I'll be watching, and they better bloody win, because if we lost last night, oh boy, Would have been a different feeling today. But glad we got the win. We're 3-0 going into West Coast next week. It's going to be a big game once again. So thank you very much for watching, Port fans. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide content coming your way. Make sure you comment below to tell me what you thought about round 3 and how we went about it. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit disappointed for Xavier Dersma as well, just before I go. Sad to see. Such a young, promising kid who was showing so much this year once again. Done his hammy, so we'll know furthermore when that information comes to hand how long he's out for. But gives another opportunity to another player next week, so really interesting to see selection. Right, I'm out of here. My name is Anthony, and as always, come ThePear.